Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, where we dive into the world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul. In each episode, we talk with the technicians, engineers, and experts who keep helicopters flying. Because at the end of the day, no maintenance, no mission.
I mean, one thing that has never changed and is not going to change is the best tool that we have for troubleshooting. Anybody? It's the pilot. Think about it. That's the person that's in that helicopter every single day. Pilots are our best tool. And that's where it comes down to the communications again, is how do we communicate with the pilots? And how do they communicate back? And that's something that's learned as you go along, is that you need to be able to communicate one with the other. The pilot, I mean, the old standard joke about, what's the difference between a turbine engine and a pilot? Turbine engine quits whining when you shut it down. The pilot has been flying that helicopter. They know the difference between good and bad. Pay attention to what they have to say and then ask the right questions, and then you'll be able to fix the problem. But again, it's learning how to communicate with them and then using all of the tools that are available. But that's our best troubleshooting tool right there.
Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS in a partnership with Vertical Magazine. This episode of the Vertical MRO Podcast was recorded on location at the inaugural Vertical MRO Conference in Kelowna, British Columbia. The MRO Conference in Kelowna, British Columbia featured 6 different panels where MRO professionals shared their expertise with those in attendance. This particular panel was titled Rotor Rookies vs. Veteran Mechanics, the Maintenance Showdown. This panel featured Taya and Mike Broderick, Howie Murray, Trish Bromley, and Bert Potter. This was an excellent panel discussion that explores the vital themes of mentorship, communication, and technology in the helicopter maintenance industry. Panelists shared their experiences and insights on the importance of mentorship for new technicians, the general differences in approaches to maintenance, and the evolving role of technology in the field. Thanks to our sponsors, Rotorcraft Support Inc., Essential Turbines, and Precision Aviation Group.
Welcome back to Vertical MRO. These panel conversations have been phenomenal. Really excited to be here after what we just went through. Clint Pulver is amazing. Give Clint a round of applause. It's kind of cool that Clint preceded this conversation. I think as we've gone through the panels this week, there's been a lot of common themes. Communication, leadership, mentorship. Those are the things that I think Clint focused on. I will say his book is amazing. It's a fast read. So to follow up on his message, highly recommend his book. On the Hangar Z podcast, as well as the Vertical MRO podcast, we had Clint on. Went a little more in depth in some of these philosophies and conversations that he had today on stage. So we're going to alter our conversation a little bit just to reflect on what Clint said and some of the perspectives that our panelists have on what Clint said. So as we go through this, again, just think through the mentorship, becoming a mentor, being a mentee, communication, and all the things that we can do to enrich our shops and our community as a whole. So to start, if we could, just introduce yourself, a little bit about where you're from, and then we'll go from there.
So my name is Taya. I am an apprentice with Alpine Helicopters. I'm fast approaching 2 years of my apprenticeship, and I'm very, very excited to be up here. Bert is my boss, actually, so it's great to be up here with him. I'm from the Okanagan, and yeah, this is my first kind of event like this, and I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. It's cool that the boss, the mentor, mentee are here on stage. That's cool.
I'm Trish. I'm born and raised Toronto, and if I knew helicopters were a thing when I went through school, my life would have turned out very differently. I spent my 20s as a mountain biker and ski bum, traveling, competing, and taking photos around the world, and ended up at a heli ski lodge in my 30s, which led me back to school. So I've just finished school. Taya was graduating when I was in first semester, and just seeing her on top of the Jet Ranger torquing stuff up was so inspiring, and just graduated in June and happy to be here now.
You guys took a page out of my book. I was just going to say, let's give them a round because they're brand new to the industry and they're up on stage in front of everybody being vulnerable to talk about this idea of mentorship and menteeship. So thank you guys for standing up and being up here. That's really cool. Bert
Potter, been in the industry 40 years, work at Alpine Helicopters, chief engineer. yeah, just happy to be here. Big turnout of people, and it was very good. Guy before Clint was very good. Spoke a lot about a lot of things you have to work on, and it was very good.
Absolutely. Howie?
Hey, Howie.
That's okay.
Didn't want to cut in on your applause.
No.
Trying to. Howie Murray, independent contractor right now, working with VIH, and got my own little side business doing special tooling design and 3D scanning, 3D printing, kind of my fun specialty on the side right now.
So you might recognize this man's voice from the Vertical MRO Podcast. He's one of our newest co-hosts. A lot of great perspectives he's bringing to that conversation and the conversations we have there. So Howie will continue to be heard there.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Mike?
Mike Broderick, I've been in the business for 50 years and didn't manage to hurt anybody, so I got the Charles E. Taylor Award for that. Guess I'm 3 days older than dirt. I've been, what they say about those that can't start to consult, I'm a consultant. I can no longer climb up on the helicopter, so now I can point and send you guys up there. This has been a fabulous event. I can't believe all of the people that are here and the results of all the effort from these guys here from MRO. They all deserve a round of applause for what they've done. But
thank you, Mike. Mike was on the podcast and shared a lot of his experience and knowledge on that podcast. When you get a chance, go back to the Vertical MRO Podcast with him on there. Phenomenal. So let's start with you, Mike. You've got a lot of perspective. You've mentored a lot of folks, and you talk about mentorship a lot over the course of your writing and speaking. Talk about what he meant to you, what some of the most impactful moments were that you took away from that conversation.
Well, I mean, you've asked, I think, at one point who my mentor is or was. It's a long time ago, tech rep. And one of the things that he taught me was, if you're going to be in this business, be in it. This was before cell phones, show you how long ago it was. On our business card, we had our home phone numbers, and that was passed out. And anytime, anywhere we got a phone call, we answered it and we were launched out. So customer service was kind of the thing that we did. And in order to be in this industry, you've got to have a passion for it. It's not your standard mechanical job. It takes a lot of devotion. You're away from your family a lot. But there's something about helicopters that just are intriguing to work on. And I'm kind of singing to the choir here on this one. Every day that helicopter changes. And if you're a true mechanic and if you truly like working on mechanical items, helicopters are the neatest challenge that there is ever out there. The one thing that we are the background for the pilot. And all of the pilots get all of the, they get the accolades. They can't do it unless we fix it. And that always made me feel good, is that I know that guy's got the confidence in what I've done to go out and do what he has to do.
Yeah, no maintenance, no mission. I love that. Kind of incorporates, what you're talking about. Howie, for you, when you think through Clint Pulver in that presentation, what kind of struck you there?
Well, I see a lot of what he's talked about in the companies that I've worked for over the years that have been really great places to work. Maybe trending towards a little bit more feeling like it's family, but still with the ability to get everything done that needs to be done. I like particularly where I am now. There's a really good mix of, I never have to worry about if I've asked for something in the field, I know I'm going to get it. And it still feels, so that corporate level of support, but still with a kind of a mom and pop kind of feel to the interactions. I always feel appreciated there. And that's really important.
Yeah, I think that vocal praise that he talked about being the number one thing, it doesn't cost anything, like Clint said. It's easy to do. I don't know why we don't do it more. So it's, proof in the pudding right there for you, based on what you're saying, that it was helpful for you. Bert?
Well, the biggest thing that got from Clint there was the mentorship. That's so important for younger people to, kind of have their person they want to learn from, and because everybody's different, they'll kind of cling to somebody else, and which is fine. I mean, because usually they have the experience, and as long as they're gonna, read the book, ask proper questions, I mean, they're gonna learn. So that's one of the best things. And then he talked about money and stuff like that, and that definitely is, it's not the first thing all the time. There's always things for family-wise, time off, which back in the day we didn't have a lot of. We're gone lots, like Mike and Howie said. It's you got to put a lot of time in this business.
Yeah.
And that's how you kind of move up the chain. So.
And that work-life balance is huge. We talked about in the recruitment side how new folks coming to the industry expect more of a work-life balance now. So finding the ability to do that, how do we do that is a question that we have to answer. How do we allow for our folks to go home, be with their family, and have a life where they come to work and they're productive? It's challenging, but I think being together under one roof, we're collectively able to come up with some of these solutions. And Clint, I think, eloquently talked about the need for that and how that translates into the I love it here mentality, where you're not losing folks in that way. Trish, for you, when you think through that, I mean, you're new to the industry, but you're obviously, you have some life experiences and you've done some things. What touched you as far as what he said?
So much of what Clint said just like landed and kept landing and kept landing. And I mirror all of your reflections as well. I thought his cheeky call out of it's not that this generation doesn't want to work, it's that they don't want to work for you. And I look at when Taya and I were going through school and the retention even in the program alone and the drop off there. And then the statistic from some of the talks yesterday about needing 600,000 by 2040 of AMEs. And it's if we don't have that buy-in, if we don't have that top-down mentorship and glue, it's not going to happen. So it was really cool to hear him say that statistic.
Yeah, that number is staggering. Again, without coming up with some unique solutions, how do we accomplish that goal? It'll be challenging, but I'm excited to see how that develops. For you, what was your takeaway?
Yeah, what a beautiful presentation. I really enjoyed it. At the very end there, when he was speaking about the teachers who have stood out to us and mentors and how you truly remember the good. I don't know, I have had such great experiences, whether it was in school to be an AME or working at Alpine specifically, that it just changes who you are as a person and as a worker, and it's so important. And
yeah, I think the illustration of the teacher is interesting. It kind of highlights how you don't often remember exactly what people say to you, but you remember how they make you feel. So I think each one of us thought through that one teacher that that was the teacher that helped me do this thing, and they made me feel this way. So I think as leaders, we need to consider that, right? It's not exactly what we say, but it's how we deliver that, and that's how we make our folks feel. Are they welcome? Are they not? So that introspection, I think, is critical. Mike, I want to go back to you for the next question. When you think through your time in the industry and you look at the generational approach to helicopter maintenance, what do you think is the biggest difference you see from your generation to the newest generation in helicopter maintenance today?
Right now, it's the development of the tools that are now available to work on the helicopters. It's artificial intelligence. And I know artificial intelligence sometimes is applied to pilots, but no.
It's called a drone.
No offense, pilots, we love you. But it's the tooling that's available, and it's the education that's out there. And there's a lot of us older guys that are still want to be mentors. The one thing, I don't think mentorship doesn't have to be specifically somebody older. You can be mentored or inspired by somebody younger. You can see their enthusiasm, and it kind of makes you feel okay. It rubs off on you when you work with somebody who's just come into the industry and they come in all excited and they're ready to rock and roll, and you're busy just scratching and walking up to the helicopter going, yeah, okay. But you start to feel that some of this enthusiasm maybe will make you a little better, and you can learn from them. The one thing that you've got to do as a technician, park your ego. Leave it back in the office, wherever. And don't let your ego make your decisions for you or form your opinions. Use your technology, work with the people that you've got, and learn from them. You can learn from them just as much as they can learn from you.
Yeah, that idea of reverse mentorship to me is really interesting. I think of myself and my kids and our relationship, and oftentimes with this iPhone, I'm like, hey, son, can you come over here and figure this thing out for me? Because I don't know how to do it. The same thing applies to us in the workforce, right? A lot of us that have been around for a while may not fully understand the capabilities of a lot of the technologies available, but the new folks that are entering our industry have that innate understanding of technology in a way that we don't. So I think we need to reach out to them and be like, hey, how do we implement this into our culture? So that reverse mentorship that you're talking about is critical. The tooling too, that's a really interesting conversation as well.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Thank you to our sponsor, Rotorcraft Support. Rotorcraft Support, from the hangar floor to the flight line. We've spent 40 years caring for the aircraft that communities rely on every day. Rotorcraft Support, where dedication meets decades of experience.
we can learn from each other. That's the whole idea of this thing. And that's the beauty of this part of aviation, is that we are, it's a whole group of small companies working together, and your working group is going to be small, rather than working for the airlines where there's thousands and hundreds of people there. You get a chance to build a relationship with the technicians and the pilots that you're working with. And that's the beauty of it, I think. And, one thing about the cell phone, I kind of make a joke about, our younger generation growing up is going to have crooked necks, bad eyesight, and strong thumbs because they don't talk. They don't look at each other and communicate eyeball to eyeball. They text. I've seen them sitting at tables and they're texting. And who are they texting? The person across the table from them. Come on, talk to them. That's what I see is that might need improvement within the industry, is that we need to communicate. We need to learn how to talk person to person, mechanic to pilot, mechanic to mechanic. And then I'll be quiet.
And not necessarily just older generation, younger generation, but everybody
Everybody,
needs to
absolutely.
communicate more.
Absolutely.
Right?
From my understanding too, this is the first time something like this has happened. And so like creating spaces like this where we can chat and we can communicate is going to be just exponentially instrumental.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Trish, I think what I was going to get at for you is on the opposite side, as a young apprentice, when you look at the we'll call them the older generation, what's the biggest difference you see in the approach to maintenance and kind of the culture?
I've been very intentionally respectful of any hesitation of me bringing in, like I do utilize my phone a lot, and I realize it's a double-edged sword of both distraction and whatnot, but it's also an incredible resource to connect me to friends at other hangars and that network. And so, or if I'm pulling up, like yesterday, the Leonardo had the all the interactive images in their manuals, and having the phone there and the technology there has been incredible. But I have received feedback in DMs and sit-down conversations where it's like, no, the manual is how we're going to do it, and like bring out the paper. And I'm just like, I don't understand that hesitation. And I think probably it's ignorance in my own, or probably trying to embed good practices on the front end. But I'm definitely curious about that.
I would say that in terms of bringing out the paper manual and going through it, some of us who grew up in that environment, I just know where to thumb to immediately in that book, right? To get to what we're looking for. And I feel more comfortable sometimes with the paper copy just because of that I know, a couple more pages. We're scrolling through on an electronic device.
Yeah. The pagination of how that one looks.
Exactly.
No, valid. Thank you for that context.
Yeah.
Just try following a wiring diagram on your phone.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah, and so that's...
Sorry, you need the old abacus and paper there.
We just did that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
Merrick,
fold out
mentor of mine here, is just talking about how the CAMOV wiring diagrams are actually life-size. For those of you who have never worked on a CAMOV before, you can't do it on a...
What's interesting is it's really a divisive topic. Paper manual versus digital manuals. Instantly spark conversation here. We were talking about emerging technologies earlier, and be able to take a pair of VR goggles, look at that wiring diagram.
Mm-hmm.
You could see on a paper diagram how How cool is that when we can adopt technology that lets you see things in a much more detailed way or a different way? But it's not it's not a versus scenario. The paper book may be better in some scenarios, whereas digital might be better in others. So really interesting already seeing some of the differences as we respond to the generational difference. What have you seen in your early time with maintenance?
Well, kind of circling back to what Clint had mentioned earlier about how people have been in the industry a long time. They don't have as much excitement as us young engineers do. And I honestly think that that's good as an apprentice. Sometimes you're going into a job and you're, super gung-ho and you're super confident. And it's often really nice to sit back for a sec and take it slow. And I'm sure, I don't know how many apprentices are out in the audience right now, but I'm sure that we've all made a slip up just because of overconfidence or just general yay, I'm so excited to do something. And so I think that is something that we can both reciprocally learn from each other.
I remember as a young police officer walking into roll call, young police officer to sit in the front row. You're being watched by all the veterans. And I remember seeing the veterans in the back row. I'm like, man, these guys are so crusty. They're jerks. They don't want me here. How could you ever get to that point? As my career progressed, I started to kind of understand how they got to that point. But then I had a kind of full circle moment and realized, I'd forgotten what it was like to be that first day employee walking through the door. The nervousness that I had in that front row, kind of all eyes on me type thing was scary. So I think that mentorship role is great because you do remember, because you're in contact with your mentee, what that feels like. So I just encourage you guys to think through that. Remember your first day. Don't forget that feeling, that uncomfortable part of being new to the industry, and take that with you as you communicate. Bert, any insight from this conversation?
No, not really. I don't think anybody forgets their first job or how they started out, and which is a good thing. And then their first mentor, I think, is very important, and just carry on from there. And now, as you get older, you'll start mentoring people. Just apprentices start coming up, and all of a sudden, you're the old guy.
Yeah.
You were the young guy, didn't know anything.
Yeah, we were the old guys we were trying to replace.
That's right. Yeah.
So I brought up technology earlier, and the evolution of technology is really cool. And Mike, you mentioned that the biggest difference you've seen is the evolution of tooling in this industry. Talk about technology and how it was used in the beginning of your career, what some of that new technology was like, and what some of that new technology is like today, and what do you see as interesting there?
Well, one thing that has never changed and is not going to change is the best tool that we have for troubleshooting. Anybody? It's the pilot. Think about it. That's the person that's in that helicopter every single day. Pilots are our best tool, and that's where it comes down to the communications again, is how do we communicate with the pilots? And how do they communicate back? And that's something that's learned as you go along, is that you need to be able to communicate one with the other. The pilot, the old standard joke about, what's the difference between a turbine engine and a pilot? Turbine engine quits whining when you shut it down.
Like a puppy.
The pilot has been flying that helicopter. They know the difference between good and bad. Pay attention to what they have to say, and then ask the right questions, and then you'll be able to fix the problem. But again, it's learning how to communicate with them, and then using all of the tools that are available. But that's our best troubleshooting tool right there.
Again, it's interesting that the theme of communication comes up again. These recurring themes we have here, and that seems to be one of the main ones. Bert, from your perspective, when you think through technology, how is it used early in your career versus how it's being used today?
Well, it was pretty simple back in the day when you were strobing a 55 with flag method. And then the 177 was cutting edge technology. As where today you can go around with the rads, and 8500's basically phased out now. Technology is taking over. AI stuff is going to be unbelievable. And it's really changed. And even plugging computers into 407 and clearing codes and everything else different than what, 205, 212, that kind of stuff. So it's really changed, and it's going to be interesting to see how it carries on. Say in another 10 years, even another 5 years, it'll be totally different. So it's a lot better.
I'd be curious to ask, do you think technology will help bridge the gap in experience for some of these folks that are coming through the front door to help them get up to speed quicker? Or do you think it'll be more of
I think
crutch?
I think it's all going to be, being younger people will pick it up quicker than the old dogs will, me included.
Yeah,
And
they grew up with it.
yeah, because they're like, use your phone, for example, like you did there. Like, you want to know anything on it, you ask your young son or daughter how to get there. They know. And I've asked younger guys on 407s, plugging the computer in. Well, they just know. They just know where to go. So,
Howie?
Well, I'm old enough but young enough to have been a complete computer nerd when I was in high school. So technology doesn't, I stay up on it more or less. But I tell you, I'd sometimes still rather have a 177 and a paper chart than, some computer box trying to tell me what to do. Although I've used them, and I mean, if you know how to use it, they're great. I think, like, mostly I come from the world of legacy helicopters that don't necessarily have a lot of support for them anymore. And certainly being in a place where I see the new machines like the 92 coming into play, where you have an onboard hum system and you can just plug the computer in and download the day's events and all of that. That's huge. Like the Ronnie Rees over there with GPMS. If I was in charge, I would have his stuff in all of my legacy helicopters just to help us to get a better idea of what's going on, especially as the aircraft age, just to try to stay ahead of what's coming, right? Like there's, we can all say, oh yeah, we know what that machine does. We know how it breaks. We know how it reacts. But that's what everybody says right before the next AD comes out, right? So I think the role of technology is very important. I think we all need to stay up on it. And certainly over the years, I've definitely seen it progress. I mean, when I started, we were looking after a 206 off an Excel spreadsheet, right? Which is fine, and it works. But there's better ways of doing things. There's always better ways of doing things.
Yeah, again, technology is one of my favorite conversations because it makes us more efficient and effective in what we do. Mike, for you, when you think through the course of your career, what's the one piece of technology that you can point to and be like, that was the most impactful technological advancement I've seen as a technician over the course of your career?
The most impactful technology?
Or tool, or what do you think's made you better?
God, that's hard to say, to make it better. I guess the hum systems that have come out make the job easier when it comes to troubleshooting. But the one thing that I go back to is the new technology can fail you. And the one thing that you can keep from, or you can do to keep from getting tricked and not being able to finish the job, is learn how the systems work. As much education as you can get on how the systems work will make it that much easier to figure out when they're broken, because you'll know where to go. So it's a matter of, I guess, technology. It's a matter of training, and the constant training and current training. Not just what you got from your A&P or your original training, but what the OEMs are putting out. And any time that you can go to one of these events and listen to what the people are saying and learn how to do it, it'll make you that much better. So,
Taya, for you, when you think about your time in the industry, going through school, is some of the technology you've been exposed to, do you think that's helped you kind of, I used the term bridge the gap earlier, but kind of excel the speed at which you feel like you can get up to speed in the community as a maintainer?
Yeah, well, in school we were using paper logbooks, so I really could, relate on that struggle
And
with these
microfiche.
guys. But yeah, like being a young person and being relatively computer savvy, it's very easy for me to navigate the manuals and working like the box for when we're strobing and stuff. It definitely is an edge that I think us young people are able to have, but these guys have adapted, which is really great. And I'm very interested to see in the future how things keep moving on with AI, like Mike has mentioned. And yeah.
It seems like the future becomes faster and faster. The more we go, the developments are insanely fast. Trish, for you, what would you say your outlook is on that?
Yeah, I really like your point about technology fails sometimes. And so while it's so important to learn the languages of those systems, last year when I was sweeping the hangar and taking photos in Beth's hangar, they had their apprentice at the time go up, do all of the equipment set up on their track and balance. And Beth had me in the back of the Jet Ranger just feeling the window. And so she was just teaching me about just listening to the machine. And I think sometimes when we're so focused on the technology, there becomes something in between us and the environment, and it almost like filters and distracts and takes away from things like feeling it or listening to it. We had an instructor on the floor last term that like came running down during one of our run-ups because they immediately knew by like the sound that something was up, and he wasn't even in the run-up. And I think as we rely more and more on technology, it takes us away from the room and onto the screens. And so it's just really important to have access to both. And so, yeah, however you guys can teach us all that would be great.
Yeah, that sensory perception that is used to troubleshoot is interesting. Mike, you talk a lot about that in your writings about troubleshooting and how important that is. Talk about the need to go back to the reliance on your sensory and your ability to feel the troubleshooting.
This episode is brought to you by Essential Turbines, powering missions, not just engines. As a Rolls-Royce authorized AMROC, we've supported M250 and Rolls-Royce 300 engines for over 30 years, delivering world-class overhauls, increased power, and rapid turnarounds for operators around the world. From single aircraft to national fleets, customers choose Essential because we know your name. We answer your call, and we solve the issue. We're big enough to deliver, small enough to care. Because your next mission can't wait. Learn more at essentialturbines.com.
Well, troubleshooting, and that's one of the things that I have written about, and I'm fortunate enough that I have a magazine that I write for that allows me to share some of this information. But the one thing about troubleshooting is that we're all proud of what we've learned. And one of the first things we want to do is go to the most complicated part of the situation and say, that's where it is. Again, take the ego, park it back and say, okay, did I just work on this thing? What was the last place that I was that might have caused the problem? And again, ask the questions. But you use the KISS method for troubleshooting. Keep it simple, stupid, Go back to the very last thing and find out where, because most of the time, that's where it was. Again, it all has to do with the fact of park the ego and go back. If you just worked on it, what did you do? And then go step by step, and don't skip a step. Start with the simple stuff and just keep moving forward until you finally get it. And that's about the best way to troubleshoot. But keep questioning the pilot. Okay, what did we do here? What did we do there? And eventually you'll get through it. But it's a process, and it's got to be followed, or you're just chasing your tail.
Bert, any insight from you on the troubleshooting side of things?
Yeah, well, communication as far as what did it actually do. If you got to jump in, go for a flip around the block there, you got to get in and go and see it for yourself. As well as, or both throttles rolled up, or, torque splits, whatever you got. But go for a ride with the pilot yourself, because he'll try to communicate it best to you, but sometimes they can't get it out what it is actually doing. So get in the machine yourself and go with them. That's best way to do it. And then you know what you got. You know what you're dealing with and where to start troubleshooting now. You actually saw it.
Howie?
One of the things I learned earliest was almost the counter to what Bert just said, which is, definitely go and investigate. And if you have to go for a lap around the block, go for a lap around the block. But my very first mentor way back in the day was Adolf Hahn. And he knew, I mean, that man knew everything about 205s. And we had a circumstance where we had put together the rotor head, and it was the beginning of the season, track and balance, and paper charts and all of that, and the move line wasn't going in the right direction. And we were about to go for another flight to try another thing, and he came out, asked us what was going on. And we told him, he goes, "No, something's broken. Go look." And that's crazy. Everything here just came out of overhaul. It can't be anything broken. And it was. The scissors had been at overhaul, and the guy had assembled the triplex bearing backwards. And the bolt holding it was almost sheared all the way through. And we found that just because he happened to be along, and okay, you've got a problem. How could that possibly be? Go check before you go fly. That would be my little input on that. But also listen to the machine, listen to the pilots for sure, but listen to the machine. You can learn a lot just by listening with your ears to what's going on. You can hear speed changes in the engine. You can, part of my walk around every day on the machine is to put my ear cup up against the machine and listen down the tail boom to the tail rotor drive shaft hanger bearings, and any other number of spots on the machine where you can identify just by repetition and listening to it every time. Listen to it. You'll hear something going on.
As you were talking through that, I'm kind of working through the idea of being distracted. And we're talking about technology. And as great as a lot of technology is, it can be a huge distraction. Jamie Wood was just in here talking about the cognitive improvements you get from having the phone away from you. And I think there's something to be said when it comes to the floor. Mike, when you think about your time and you think about technology and how great it is, talk about maybe some of the downsides of technology as it pertains to distractions and other things.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I've already addressed, the technology can fail you. But the one thing also about troubleshooting that you were alluding to is get to know the helicopter when it's running right. After you've fixed it and you've checked all of the instruments and everything, get to know what it's doing when it's running right so that you can tell when it's running wrong. Inspect that helicopter every day. Check for things that maybe weren't there yesterday, but they might be there today. A smoking rivet. You're all of a sudden changing an anti-collision light bulb more often than you should. Every 4 or 5 hours, you got to change it. You got a high freak vibration going on. The minor things that take place. The helicopter it's always tugging at your sleeve. I'm broke. There's something going on here, and you need to fix me. And if you pay attention to that, you'll be able to catch it before it becomes catastrophic. So learn what it's like when it's right, then you'll know what's going on when it's not.
Taya, from your perspective, when you think about troubleshooting and what they're discussing, is any of that, I don't want to say contrary, but is any of that different from what you learned in school?
No, yeah, a little bit. When I first came out of school, I thought that I was a bad troubleshooter because it's not something that we were really taught, or that's how I felt. And just like being a great mechanic or being a great troubleshooter, it's not something that we're innately born with. Like, no one just has that skill. It's something that you are taught and that you build on through experience, through somebody telling you, through mentorship. And yeah, like being out in the field this summer with some engineers helping them with their machines, like I was able to learn so much just with the daily troubleshooting that you get, or little snags that are common and that are easy to fix, but I wouldn't necessarily know the first step, right? And so, yeah.
I'm curious, Howie, to go to you and talk about the development of your troubleshooting skills. Walk us through how that develops, and kind of in perspective of what she just described. Now, you come out and you're not naturally gifted in that way. How did you get to the level where you felt confident in your ability to troubleshoot?
I think it's just exposure over time, and having had that opportunity to learn sort of at the right hand of a man who knew a lot about the machine, who would he would never give you the answer. he would always guide you, ask you questions about what's going on to make you think about the systems. Like that's one of the greatest things ever, was that learning, not by being given the answer, but by being guided to the answer through additional questions, or, you know, the ever popular, did you read the book? Right? Did you read the book? Yeah. Start there. And I mean, troubleshooting section in the manuals, it's pretty good. And when you run out of what's going on there, now you're going to start to think through each of the systems on your own and look, feel, figure it out. I think it does. It's something that evolves over time for sure, with experience on certain airframes. I don't know that troubleshooting as a skill is immediately transferable frame to frame. You need experience, right? It certainly helps. Like if you've got that mindset where, okay, read the book, look around, listen to it, feel what's going on, talk to the pilot, and all of that goes into troubleshooting the system. And it's something that you need to be given the opportunity to do, to develop those skills, and to, everybody learns the little quirks of their machine, either the one you're on or just as a type, right?
Bert, any insight from you there?
Yeah, the biggest thing is learn the systems, because the helicopter, like they said, it'll tell you when something's wrong or starting to go wrong. Vibration is the number one thing, but definitely learn the systems, and each helicopter will be a little different. Different airframes will have different frequencies, but most of the time it's, if you know your systems, you can troubleshoot pretty good. That's not a problem. And experience on the aircraft that's what we're trying to get to today, is like everybody up to speed on stuff.
So the next question is the question I asked in the podcast quite a bit, and I like the variance of answers we get, and I think given the difference in experience, we'll hear some different answers here. I'm going to ask you what your favorite tool is, and on the podcast we've heard everything from a flashlight to a computer and kind of everything in between, and it's somewhat of a simplistic question, but I like the answers that come from it. So Mike, let's start with you. When you think back over the course of your career, what's the one tool that you can't go without?
Pilot.
Tool in a bad way?
Are you calling a pilot?
He's a tool.
Yeah. No, I mean, the one tool that I can't do without it really is the pilot. He's the guy that's the person that dictates what you're going to do on the helicopter. And you learn how your pilot flies. You learn how he handles the helicopter. Learn to know your pilot and the respect. And there's a lot of joking going back and forth as I've attempted some, my poor attempts at humor here, but the pilot is the most important person in your job. It's your job to make sure that they go out, they're able to do their job confidently and without having to worry about what goes on, and then they come back and they haven't hurt your helicopter. Yeah, those are the things that I think are the most important, and that's the most important person in my life.
I'm going to come back to this side of the room. When you think through your experience, what's been the most useful tool or your favorite tool that you've used to date?
Well, when I think about what's on me at all times, it is my flashlight. Like it's never not in my pocket, but also just other people as well. There's been so many times where I've been doing a task and I'm like, man, there's got to be an easier way to do this, And it's great to be able to, go back and forth and utilize other people as well.
Like it. Howie or Bert, I see you raise your hand.
Just brushing flies away.
That's how you ended up on stage.
I don't want them in
right?
my gear. Most important tool, well, you got to get pilot snags for sure, but it's the tools you make. You can buy snap-on wrenches, you can buy whatever wrenches you want, but it's tools that you make yourself to speed up a job would be the most important thing, along with flashlight and the mirror, of course. But
what have you built?
Well, cut ratchet wrench to make a T-handle out of it.
Yeah.
To make that, any job to make it a little quicker. Just made that as a young guy on a 206 hydraulic pack,
Yeah.
bottom nut.
The shaved down, ground down 9/16 to do the nuts on
anything to make your
generator.
job easier when the bugs are biting your ass.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And a big hammer, of course.
A hammer fixes everything, right?
Yeah.
Bigger hammer.
Trish?
Especially Bell.
Side note, I think that would be such a cool like article or something of all the specialty tooling that you guys have made over the years. I would like froth on seeing all of that. My favorite tool, and this is where like my ignorance in the industry is going to come out. I'm very new to it, so I've held brooms and rags probably thus far. But my favorite tool is my camera. Through school and through last summer, just being able to take photos of things as it's happening so that I can go back and look at them later on and in detail. And then when I'm trying to figure something out, I can actually just like capture it and share it and be like, okay, what was this? Why does it look like this? Da, 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 da. And it's immediate feedback from people who know more, who weren't behind me while I was doing it. And so I've really enjoyed having my camera with me at all times, and hopefully I can continue to do that. So
that's actually a really unique answer. And having seen your camera, her camera's been all over the world. You can see the travel on her camera. It's really cool. But I remember in flight having issues with our radio head and getting some really weird scrolling zeros on our radio head. And nobody believed me that we were seeing this in flight because they've never seen it themselves. And maybe you have, I don't know. But we took a video of that and sent that into Technisonic for a diagnostic tool. So that's a great point of using that as a tool. It's not just a camera, it's also a tool. Howie?
The old school version of a camera, notebook and a pen. Take notes on everything. Write down the snags as the pilots are talking to you. When you figure it out, put down the answer so you got it next time. And that has, of course, evolved into your phone, which does everything for you. But I've got a great app on there that you can just talk to, and it voice to text, and you can just talk at it. What happened today? This is what we found. This is all the things, and include pictures of the instrument panel during different flight regimes and all of that.
what app is that?
Putting
you on the spot, sorry.
Yeah.
We'll circle back later if you don't remember.
I'll find my phone's down there.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
find it for you.
Thank you.
Pass it off.
Yeah, this conversation's interesting. I always think, as simplistic as it is, I like the stories that come out of it. And the idea is like a camera and a flashlight, which, we seem to have at hand a lot of the time. So I want to move back to the idea of mentorship. Following up on the conversation that Clint had, we've talked about the importance of mentorship, not just today with Clint, but throughout the whole week. Mike, you've mentored a lot of folks. Talk about our role and kind of our duty as veterans to mentor the new generation that walks through the front door.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Our duty to mentor, it is our duty to mentor, but it's also our duty to be mentored by the people that we are mentoring. We need to lead by example. They'll follow what we say that, to do. And if we do sloppy work, they're going to follow up with it. So we need to know that if you're training a mechanic, they're going to be watching what you do. They're going to be watching your habits. You also learn from them. Again, the enthusiasm that comes from the new mechanic that's out there, and they're always looking at you. They're always just like your kids. You lead by example. You do the right thing. They'll follow what you say.
Yeah, learned behavior is a huge part of that with your kids, right? It's funny how being a parent translates into your leadership skills and abilities at work or on the sports field or wherever that is. Howie, when you think through that, again, you've been in a lot of situations where you've either been a mentor or a mentee. Talk about your experience and your thoughts on that.
I think in the long run. You sort of have to identify the incoming personnel, the incoming people for potential. Like, God, we had this one guy that everybody took a shot at mentoring him and just not receptive at all. And I find that a little disheartening, a little problematic. I think we all need to be able to be guided in what we're doing. Even still, like, every day is a day to learn something new, even at this stage. And then, within the same crop coming in, a couple of guys who were keen. They were open to suggestion. They asked questions and all of that. And I don't want to say don't waste your time on the guy who's obviously not interested. You can always give it a shot. You never know; they might come around. But I think it's definitely important. Like, we have to pass on what we know, pass on our love of this this work that we do to people coming in, because a lot of people are trying it out, see what it's like. And if they see someone who's 30 years, 40 years, 50 years in that still gets enjoyment out of what they're doing every day, that's an inspiration. And we need that inspiration in the business. You can't just be a grumpy old curmudgeon in the corner, like, go do the thing. Tell me when you're done. You gotta help people along a little bit. You can't just expect the new folks to come in and give them, all right, string the blades and put it on the mast and leave them alone. You have to guide. Like, it should be a scary prospect for anybody new to the business. And you have to understand that coming out of school, not everybody's, they hardly know, they know enough to know that they need to know more, right? I hope. And certainly they've got the background or the foundational skills and knowledge to really start to learn. And it's up to us to help them along the way to do all of that extra learning. And for me, certainly, even, like, I started with VIH about 4 or 5 years ago, after 25, 26 years in the business, and I go work for a guy as a second engineer on the 61, I'm back to learning things. And you need somebody to, help you along the way. I mean, later in life, you certainly have a certain amount of ability to just, okay, go change the thing, and you know what to do, to read the book and do all the things, but you're still going to run into little head scratchers that you can, rely on the crowd that's still maybe not older necessarily, but more experienced on the machine. You always have to be ready to be a mentee and be a mentor, I think.
Yeah, I think the challenge of aviation, and part of why I love it, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well, is you can never learn it all, right? There's always more to learn. There's another challenge to tackle. So aviation, I think, keeps you engaged, and it makes you a lifelong learner, which is great. You're always, like you said, kind of looking for the mentor that knows more than you do, and following that person. And I'm curious for you guys, as you've entered the industry, how accessible has mentorship been for you? Has the industry been welcoming for you guys, or how would you describe that?
Did you want to take that first? Do you want me to jump on it?
Go for it, Trish.
I'll take it. It's interesting. I feel like there's sometimes an artificial rush to find a mentor and be like, I have a mentor. But I think finding the right mentor is so important. And you were mentioning that you had that one gentleman who everyone kind of tried. And if it isn't a fit, there's not going to be that buy-in. There's not going to be that rapport. There's not going to be that trust. And so I think I've very luckily, I found someone reached out, and I immediately felt like safe to ask stupid questions. Curiosity was encouraged. The Socratic approach of not having the answers right away, but having more questions asked, like, oh, so good. And but I think identify how you learn and how you want to learn, and be open to also different ways. And I think that will allow you to find the right mentor, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to just forcing a fit,
Thank you for actually.
you.
Thank you for actually saying the Socratic method.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be too nerd when I was talking about it, but that's that's the method.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Taya, for you, would you say our community has been welcoming for you as a apprentice and as a newly graduated student?
Absolutely. I've been very blessed to have a great group of managers who truly took the time with me. And, I'm not scared of being stupid, and I'm not scared of not knowing what to do. That doesn't frighten me, and it shouldn't. And I'm not scared of getting reprimanded for not knowing what to do in a specific task or yada, yada, yada.
Right.
And I think that that's really what has made me become the apprentice that I am today, is just the taking time. And it's not even just managers, it's other engineers that I've gotten to work with. And I find myself very, very lucky, extremely lucky and grateful.
Can I jump on your comment about taking time? Those small moments of you guys walking around the machine. I was working at a heli ski lodge, and one of the engineers there, and I wasn't even in my apprentice chapter yet, he said, come do my DI with me. And that time of getting to see that flow and getting to see that like intention and the little details of listening to it was like instrumental. And so just that time, though you might it's totally routine for you, having someone who's never been exposed to it, they're like sponging it all up. So those little moments.
And I think that helps to have someone who's keen to do that. I've done that as often as I can, and you'd be surprised that I've run into at least one person who's like, no, it's okay, you go do it.
Ooh.
Well, the biggest thing is
the opportunity to learn.
At least then they have the passion to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And mechanical will come in time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because everybody learns at a different speed. I think you mentioned it before.
Yeah.
And couldn't agree more with that. Like, everybody's got their own speed for learning, and as long as they're asking questions, there's no stupid questions. We always tell them, if you're not sure about something, please ask, because it's easier to ask than have, a costly mistake or somebody misses it on a ICC or something like that. So it's easier to ask when you're putting it together, so we don't have to take it apart again.
Yeah, they should never be afraid to ask. That's
No.
I mean, that's just like first thing. And we guys are never afraid to ask, this doesn't make sense, and you go to another guy who may know it a little better than you, and that's what you should be able to do.
Yeah. I think you also need to be not afraid to tell either.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what? I think I just screwed it up. Come and look and tell me what I've done.
Yeah.
Own it.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
You need to own it. You need to own your maintenance and stand up to it and then learn from it.
Well, that's where some of the biggest lessons are learned, right? Through some of the failures and mistakes that you've made, because you always remember those things till the day you go to the grave. You're going to remember the mistakes you made.
Experience is what you get right after you need it.
Yeah.
Experience. You get experience from your mistakes.
Yeah.
So you should learn to use it. What's neat also that I'm seeing in the industry now is that ladies are joining the maintenance side of this thing. You ladies bring a different perspective in your thought process on how to maintain helicopters. And that's good. We need that. Again, you don't seem to have the egos that,
It was beat down for school.
I guess it's your lack of testosterone, but you don't have the egos to deal with that we do.
Hey, that's a pilot department there.
So I think I'll piggyback on that a little bit and just put you guys on the spot and ask you a question. Obviously, we can't deal with the recruitment issue we have unless we open this field up for women in a way that we haven't done before. I think we've done a decent job, but how can we do better? How can we reach out to the women that, as you guys have said, can do this job so well? How can we make this a more inviting community for that side of the population?
Well, I really think that it starts with your daughters. For those who have daughters out there, to be introducing them at a young age to, oh, you're going out to change the oil in your car. Well, come on, I'll show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. It is sparking interest early on in life. I was lucky to have a dad who would do those things with me. And even though I wasn't necessarily mechanically inclined when I first came into school and into the industry, I had interest, and that's what propels you. And I think it really, starts, by just getting little girls into it. And I love showing other women what I do. It brings me so much joy when I meet another young woman and we get to talk about it. One of my sister's friends is going to school to be a AME at this moment, and she credits me for introducing it to her. We work together, and it's really special.
Love
and
it.
Yeah, I think it starts with
you need to share
with
that.
young people.
You need to share that more often. I look forward to the day when it's not unusual to see a lady mechanic out there. That means we've done our job. But
more and more
the
popular.
one thing too that I see that's going on here is, and I start a lot of my instructions this way, is there anybody in this room named Justa? No. Are you just a mechanic? I've not found a Justa yet in any of the rooms. The respect that mechanics should be getting, it's finally coming around. I tell people that, what have you been doing for the last 50 years? I work with helicopters. Oh, are you a pilot?
Yeah.
No, I'm a mechanic. Oh,
Number
you're
one.
just a mechanic.
Yeah.
And
Just do the ashtrays
that
and
is
windows.
slowly evolving, and I'm glad to see that, because there are no Justas out there. We save people's lives. My handle is Rotor Doc, and I picked that up somehow. Somebody called me a doctor of aviation at one point, and I started thinking about it, and we're doctors. Our patients are the helicopters, and their relatives are the pilots, and we save the helicopters so that their relatives can live.
I love that. I'm going to reuse
That's pretty good.
that clip many times.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I agree.
Thank you.
We're short on time, but I do want to get to you to ask you the same question before we close out here.
Thought I dodged it.
I think it's important for us to talk about.
Yeah. Taya's answer was beautiful with it starts with the daughters. I think having my first career be in a male-dominated sport as a female, visibility is so important. And so when I walked into the first term and saw Taya up on the helicopter, seeing someone else doing it, if you can see it, you can do it. And so I think that's so integral. And as much as this is a Pandora's box of the DEI hires and putting women on posters, it's so freaking important to step into a room and see someone else that looks like you there. And so having spaces like this where there are other ponytails in the room has been freaking phenomenal to see that I'm not the only one, Yeah.
Well, it is an honor to have you guys here. Thank you for being vulnerable and for stepping on the stage as apprentices, as panelists. Thank you guys for your experience, for all the things you've done for the community over all these years. Thank you guys for hanging out for this panel. We've got one more panel at 2:15. And until then, have fun.
Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Essential Turbines, powering missions, not just engines. As a Rolls-Royce authorized AMROC, we've supported M250 and Rolls-Royce 300 engines for over 30 years, delivering world-class overhauls, increased power, and rapid turnarounds for operators around the world. From single aircraft to national fleets, customers choose Essential because we know your name. We answer your call, and we solve the issue. We're big enough to deliver, small enough to care. Because your next mission can't wait. Learn more at essentialturbines.com.
Thank you to our sponsor, Rotorcraft Support. Rotorcraft Support, from the hangar floor to the flight line. We've spent 40 years caring for the aircraft that communities rely on every day. Rotorcraft Support, where dedication meets decades of experience.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS and in partnership with Vertical Magazine. We recorded this episode on location at the inaugural Vertical MRO Conference in Kelowna, British Columbia, where MRO professionals gathered to share their experience across 6 different engaging panels. This particular panel, titled Rotor Rookies vs. Veteran Mechanics, the Maintenance Showdown, was an excellent panel and examined key themes such as mentorship, communication, and technology within the helicopter maintenance industry. Our panelists shared valuable experiences and insights on the importance of mentorship for new technicians, generational differences in maintenance approaches, and the evolving role of technology in our field. We appreciate your support and hope you found this discussion as enlightening as we did. Stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the fascinating world of helicopter maintenance.